right, hello, my name is Pedro Gonzalez, and I'll be talking about creating product prototypes using non-proprietary. Can't hear you? Can you hear me now? Is that better? There we go. All right, my name is Pedro Gonzalez, and I'll be talking about creating product prototypes using non-proprietary materials. And I'll be talking about simplifying the prototyping process, and we'll be talking about creating prototypes in different materials, how do you go from your design software to your parts without G-code programming, and producing prototypes right on your desk, and how to lower cost of your producing prototypes. We'll also be talking about the technology used to create the prototypes. In a nutshell, companies need prototypes. And the prototypes need to be of similar materials as you go into the production. So the products have to match almost the same. And materials play a huge role in creating the functional prototype. You know, for testing the fit, the finish, and the product durability. Very, very important. So prototyping in one material and producing the final product in a different material is risky. You know, you could run into problems that were unforeseen. For example, creating, a product that's going to be bouncing off walls. You can't produce a prototype in a material that's been, like using a traditional RP process that's been grown in layers. You need to test this product in one piece that's going to be bouncing off walls. So you need to create the prototype in the actual production material. And final products can come in a wide variety of materials. You're not just limited to one type of material. You could be in ABS, it could be in Delrin, it could be in aluminum, in acrylic. There's a wide variety of materials that a final product will be produced in. And traditional RP process can only produce in a limited amount of materials. Sometimes it's only an ABS-like material, sometimes it's in a UV-like material. There is a technology that can produce prototypes in all these different types of materials. And it's CNC machining. So CNC machining is an established technology, right? Everyone knows about it, and it's well understood by thousands of companies. It's true, but designers and engineers are not CNC machinists. They don't know about G-code. They're not going to know which tools to use, and they're not going to know all the finer points of producing prototypes using CNC technologies, right? They're not going to know how fast to go, how deep to cut. They're not going to know any of those parameters. So Roland developed subtractive rapid prototyping, and that's the term that we use, SRP, and we've taken a lot of the guesswork out of the equations. You kind of think of it as CNC for dummies, right? There's no CNC machining experience whatsoever required, right? The users, usually the designers and engineers that use our technology, they don't have to know G-code, they don't have to know anything about it. They won't even see the code that gets sent to the machine. They don't have to know what tool to use, right? Very important, because sometimes people say, what tool do I use? I don't know. It's very tricky at first. You don't have to know what tool to use. And you also don't have to know, how fast do I go? How deep do I cut? There's a lot of little finer points of CNC machining, and you really don't have to know all that information. So how do we do it? How do we make this super easy for any designer, any engineer to use CNC technology? A key part of our solution is our SRP player software. And this is the software that I'll actually process your 3D data and send it straight to the machine. As I mentioned before, a lot of designers and engineers don't know what tool to use. Don't worry about it. We actually have a nice little checkbox where users can just select all the different tools that they have available to them. Whether it's big, small, round, flat, just check off a bunch of tools and you're ready to go. The software then will ask like some really simple basic questions, basically what you're doing with your prototype. Does it have a lot of flat planes? Does it have curved surfaces? We'll also ask you what type of shape of material you'll be cutting out of, whether it's round or a square workpiece. So all you're really doing is just checking off a couple of check marks in the wizard program. And then you also select the type of material that you're doing. So we have a pull down list. So once you've selected basically what you're going to be doing, You just go to a pull down list and you just select the type of material that you're going to be cutting. Based on these selections, based on the tool, then SRP Player is going to make all these selections for you. It's going to take all this data, create the cutting speeds, the depth of cut, the process. It's going to take all our years of experience, these flow charts that we have, and it's going to make the part ready for you to start cutting. And even the cutting process, we make that super easy to use. The software will actually tell you how to set up the machine. It'll show you on a diagram where the origin needs to be, and that interfaces with our machine. Very, very simple. And the user will never see the code. They'll never need to know like all the different finer points of the the G code that gets sent to the machine. They never see it. We took all the features and benefits of a larger CNC machine and made it fit on your desktop. That's essentially what we did. Big machine, just made it compact, easy to use. And these are not like your traditional CNC machines. Like if you go out there and you see a Haas machine or another CNC machine, you'll see a big display with a lot of buttons on them. It gets confusing, right? So we kind of simplified that. And if you look at our machines, there's not a lot of buttons on them. Our controls are very, very simple, very easy to use. Again, our main users of our technology are going to be the designers, engineers. And like I said, they're not CNC machinists, so we have to make our technology as easy to use as possible. If you outsource, it can get pretty expensive, right? Some people actually, instead of having equipment in-house to do this, they'll outsource the creation of the prototypes. And just to give you some couple of quick examples, to create a small gear, it could cost them to $200. Create something a little bit more elaborate, and it can be pretty pricey. Compare that to producing it in-house, and you can see there's quite a bit of a price savings. You're going from $200 down to $22, from $1,700 down to $134. So you make enough prototypes in-house, you can actually pay for the machine off relatively quickly. We've had some customers that say all they had to do was create one production part, and essentially the machine was paid off for itself. Some examples of customers using our technology. We had one customer, the name actually has been changed. They needed to prototype bottles, and they used acrylic to prototype the bottles. So that's one benefit of the machine. You can actually cut a part out of acrylic, polish it up, and you can have a nice model to show to the marketing sample or even a boardroom meeting to show what the final product will look like. We have a couple of companies that use our technology for creating small electronic devices. A couple examples are like Garmin and XM satellite radio. So what they do is they create the packaging prototypes using like ABS material, what the final product is going to be. They put all the electronics in there and they use it for real world testing. We also have some companies, what they do is they actually create a prototype out of a medical grade materials. So that's very important for them. They can't have a piece created out of a similar material. They need it to be created out of a medical grade material so they can make the prototype in a medical grade material. And one of our customers, not only do they make the prototypes in the material, they also make manufacturing jigs to aid them in the assembly of the prototype. So they're kind of using it for a couple of different applications. We have one customer, instead of creating like a lot of different components, what he does is he actually makes the molds out of a very simple material, and from there he can pour his own components out of a wide variety of materials. And we also have the ability, because we can cut a wide variety of materials, we can also cut a product out of wax. So instead of creating something out of a exotic material like beryllium copper, they can create it out of wax and then have it cast. There's actually one of our customers, they actually create model boat propellers, but they make the propeller out of wax and then they cast it in beryllium copper instead of having to cut a model out of the actual material. And this just gives you an example of all the different companies that are using our technology. We have anywhere from automotive manufacturers to high-tech companies, to universities, to government agencies, to even a Formula One team. We have actually a couple of Formula One customers that are using our technology For what, we're not allowed to say, but we just know they are using our technology. Any questions? And if you have any other questions, you can see the machines are actually right behind you in the Roland booth. So feel free to stop by, ask a couple of questions, see the machines, and we have some samples there to show you. Thank you.